for this.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
Crystal Smith, Mark, is the name.
Crystal Smith. That's it. I thought my channel got like banned or something. My stream just completely died, and then I got a warning on my OBS that was like, your stream key is invalid, and I'm like, the hell? The hell just happened?
Twitch doesn't like you saying the truth, Mark.
Oh man, can't have that. Yeah, what
Just
was
you
it?
though. I'm fine.
Just you.
Anyway.
Yeah. Was Crystal Smith? Was that it?
Crystal Smith was that officer you were talking about that stood up against her.
She was commended for intervening and Coherence, Poherence, I believe was the guy who shoved the woman.
Oh, that's a name. I thought that was a word I'd never heard of. Like coherence.
Yeah. Here's the article I found about it. Susan in my chat told me the name Crystal Smith.
There it is. This is the picture. I love this picture. It's just like there's so much going on in the picture. It's the black and white one, just like the militarized police, like just like and the guy with like clearly like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar, like just I love this picture. This is I'm gonna remember this picture for a long time. Yeah. This is it's so cool when you come across a picture and you're like, yeah, this is going to be in the history books, like this one.
Which
right
picture
here.
Is it?
I got it up on my stream. Let me see if I can put it.
Yeah, where did you share that?
Let me put it on the Discord. This is a low res version of it. I'm sure there's a higher res version, but yeah, it's a good one.
I'm getting the picture, guys. Everybody, hold your horses.
But anyway, chat. It's challenging. I don't even know if I'm right about this, but I feel like it's part of the process of making the changes that actually need to be made to fix this problem. The political and systemic changes that need to happen. It's not just individual officers. It's not departments. It's not even necessarily training police. Part of this process is people understanding each other, people respecting each other's experience, and trying to replace ignorance with compassion and education and understanding. Because it's not people's fault that they're ignorant. Sometimes it is. Some people can be willfully ignorant, but it's not your fault that you grew up where you did. It's not your fault that you experienced what you did. And it's not your fault if you don't understand someone else because their life is so different than yours. But refusing to learn and have compassion for people and show empathy to humans, that is your fault. That's a choice you're making. So that's an important part. And I feel like no one's talking about that. Yeah. Because there's so much outrage right now, and there's so much crazy violence with the protests and clashing with police. But that's the part that concerns me, is that this has happened not to this extent before, but in the last 5 years, this has happened other times.
Yeah.
And it hasn't led to the deeper change that needs to come, the deeper conversations that need to happen, and the political will to vote for people who understand the importance of compassion and understanding, and will do what they need to do at the higher levels in government to try and right these injustices in the future and prevent this from continuing to happen. Yeah,
there are a lot of, not all obviously, and it's generalization to say something like this, but a lot of the problems that I see in the world, and especially like on the internet, is an inability to self-evaluate your preconceived notions about things, to be so certain that you are right, that all other input is wrong, is what causes people to become entrenched in bigotry. Without the ability to look at what you're saying and be like, am I wrong? Could I be wrong? We as humans should always be in a self-educating cycle where we check the information and we take nothing for certainty, and we always evaluate. You can evaluate and then come back to the same answer and be like, yeah, no, I'm right. Yeah, absolutely. You can. But without that constant checking of information, like you'll never grow as a person, and you'll never evaluate. And if you come from an upbringing, like Bob said earlier, he comes from an upbringing where he had to learn that some views are biased. When I grew up, like as one of 3 to 4 like Asian people in my school, I grew up to hate my Korean side. I grew up to hate it. because it's what made me different, and it's what got me made fun of, and it's what made me get bullied. That bias, that internalization of that to hate a part of who I am because of the way I was treated, like in that way, is so poisonous. And equally so, it's so poisonous to be reinforced of your belief that you are better because you look a certain way. That is bias, and that is privilege, and that is very, very hard to break, but it's something that a lot of people need to address in themselves, to take a look within and recognize that you're not the sum total of your looks, you're not the sum total of your skin. You are who you are because of your actions and the things that you have done up in your life until that point. And if people could take more time to look at what they're doing and what they're saying and be like, could I be wrong? Could I be wrong in my thinking? And evaluate and just constantly grow and evolve and change. And then some people who are assholes might look at themselves and be like, am I wrong? Nah, I'm right. Yeah, screw them. Screw all of them. Whites are the best. You know, that's the kind of thinking that some people will, I hate to say it, but probably always will exist like that. But it's up to us to fight it as much as we can. Yeah.
Tonight, I mean, I was talking about this yesterday as well, to a little bit of an extent, but like, we have so much reach. I mean, Mark, you especially have so much reach just globally with where our audience is. We've got people in the US, people in Canada, Mexico, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia. I mean, you name it. And we've got people watching us, which is insane. And more so than ever, social media, YouTube, Twitch, these platforms give us reach that very few things were able to reach in the past. And we have an audience that, for the most part, is younger. It's teens, 20s, 30s. And people that watch us, I hope, over the years, have an idea of what kind of people we are, we try to be. We're not perfect, we make mistakes, but I think we've always surrounded ourselves with good people. We've always tried to do the right things for charity, for our communities, for each other. And I hope that despite whatever that inclination is, my goal is to bridge the gap yesterday. It is today too. If you're on the other side of this, if you're one of the people yelling all lives matter or not all cops are bad and all this and that stuff too, we don't hate you. We want you to see things from the right perspective. We want you to come over the fence and join us and see that we want all lives to matter. We want to reform and fix the corruption in the government and the police force. We want the world to be a better place. That's what it's always been about with all the charity stuff we've done, with everything else we've done. We want to elevate the world to a better place. And we feel like with our platform, we have a responsibility to you guys to try to help you all see things. Are we perfect? No. And like Bob said earlier, don't take everything we say as pure fact. And if you find one contradiction, our whole point's thrown out. The point is, Black lives matter, and they have to matter in order for all lives to matter. And there is corruption, and people that that their job is to serve us, protect and serve us. They took an oath to do that. And that position is being abused by way more. One person abusing it is too many, and there's a lot more than that. We just want you guys to want the world to be a better place, and you have to look and see corruption in front of you. You can't just eat up propaganda. You can't just think that because the system is ideal in theory, it's going to be ideal in practice. It needs to be fixed, and that's all that this is trying to address. And if you get caught up in the details of, but people are looting, not all cops are bad, but that guy did something wrong, if you get caught up in those minute details, you're missing the point. Please don't get lost up in the minute details and see why this keeps happening. There's an overall big picture that is so important. And if you get caught up trying to find ways to poke holes, you're missing the point entirely to begin with. And we love you guys. Please, just please come over to the right side of the fence and see things from the right perspective here. Understand what's going on.
Well said.
Okay, I want to shift gears for a second, and a thing I've been thinking about a lot is what can I do? I'm I'm a pretty empathetic person, and I hope you can. I mean, Chad can see the emotion on my face, the strain. I am this deeply upsets me in a way I don't fully understand yet because it's not something I've had to process. This has not been in my face because of who I am, because of where I live. I am lucky, privileged as a white person. And so I'm processing a lot of this anger that I'm sure has been steeping for people in black communities for way longer. But the thing I keep dwelling on is what am I supposed to do? What can I do? I feel an urge to do something, but it seems, especially in certain places, it seems dangerous to just walk out and go to the protests. I'm a big guy, but I'm not a fighter. You know, I'm not trying to go and have an altercation, get tear gassed or whatever. That is intimidating to me. But I still feel a strong compulsion to do something. Then I feel like it's good for us to talk about, and we gave you these websites at the top of the stream. But it's good. It's a good idea to talk about what can you do to get involved that is within, you know, safe for you, because COVID-19 is still an issue. People at these protests are exposing themselves to that, and it's inescapable because there's, you know, because of the nature of protests. Even if you try and do it responsibly, it's hard to stay completely safe, and maybe you can't risk because you have elderly parents or you have, you know, an immune, you know, dysfunction of your own that puts you at risk. Whatever it is, there are lots of things you can do aside from going out into the streets, carrying signs, standing up physically with people. And the website, the card website, blacklivesmatters.card.co, has a bunch of great resources in regards to that. So hopefully some of you looked at the website, but if you do take a look at it, I think for me personally, obviously I went to law school. The important part of this is the long-term efforts in terms of elections, in terms of going to community meetings and calling and pressuring government officials to make sure they don't feel like they can just let it slide because it's controversial. And so this website there are a lot of petitions. Petitions are great. It's easy to do. Almost, you know, if you have internet access, it's almost nothing to give up. But texting or calling officials, texting or calling the district attorney, the mayor of Minneapolis, other cities where there have been incidents where the police force has a record, governors of states, your state representatives, your congress people, your senators. Calling, communicating with politicians is a way that you can get involved, be involved in the solution, and do something that's tangible. And it feels in the same way that voting feels almost hopeless sometimes. You feel like your vote doesn't count. I know that leads a lot of people to just say, screw it, I'm not even going to vote. My vote won't count. It does. It does. And especially at lower levels of government, in state and local elections, elections are decided by tens of votes, hundreds of votes. Your vote counts. Officials receive 500 emails. You are one of those 500 emails. You are one of the 100 calls they receive. That affects what they think their constituents want, what they think they can get away with, what they think they have to do. Politicians are not always moral people. It's the nature of the kind of people that want to be politicians. They're there for power. They're there for renown, whatever. They're there for their own reasons. They're supposed to be serving their people, but that's not what motivates them. They are motivated by outrage, communication, by being told constantly and repeatedly what is right, what they should do. And this counts for a lot of issues. But in this case, this is something that you can do at very little personal cost. It's not, I mean, obviously donating money helps. There are lots of people who are fighting this fight right now who need funds to raise post bail or to have supplies, whatever. Not everyone has money. Times are hard. Texting, calling, emailing, communicating, and being involved politically. There are resources for that on the links that we sent you. And that is the way that long-term you can do something that matters about this. It feels so disconnected, I know. It's not sexy. It's hard to maintain your emotional investment in how outrageous and horrific the video of police brutalities can be and of police murders can be.
I need to ask you a quick question, Bob. You're probably the most knowledgeable on this. The Mark, if you know, you can answer. Can you sign petitions underage, and can you sign these if you are not a U.S. resident?
I don't know the details to those questions.
Okay.
I would say if you're going to sign petitions and you are not 18 or not 13, there's different sort of levels. The website should have a requirement. You should definitely read the terms and conditions and make sure that you're doing things legally. But even if you are too young, or if you're not allowed to sign, if you're out of the country or out of the state or whatever, you can still communicate and be politically involved. And if you're not American, this is a quintessentially American issue because of the history of our nation, because of the way our country was founded, and the painful history that exists. But this is not a thing that's exclusive to us. Racism exists around the world, and wherever your home is, it's potentially an issue that you should care about and try and be involved in if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I just feel like that's important to say because this has been going on for over a week now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time I just kept thinking, should I go to the protest? I don't know. That seems dangerous. There's so much you can do that is safe and does not cost you a lot of money, that's not that you can just be involved with. So if you feel that urge, look for resources. They're out there.
Yeah.
Make sure you get involved.
Yeah, it's important for people to remember that these politicians and even the police, they serve at the will of the people. They are only in power because we, as citizens of this country, allow them to. We have chosen to give them that power. And there's like this general sense of like detachment from the greater happenings of the country. It's the kind of idea that makes people go like, oh, well, my vote won't matter. It's stuff like that. There is a responsibility that every citizen has to the betterment of the country as a whole, to pay attention to the things that are happening in both our national government and our local governments. Local governments, like changing the ways that your community is raised up, is an essentially important part of being a citizen, like having that responsibility to both the community as a whole and to look out for those that are being neglected and being left behind. And also checking abuses of power. Like that is so important because at the end of the day, this is our country. Each of us is a small owner of this country as a whole. By being a citizen, its well-being and its direction is all of our responsibilities. We all chip in with taxes and voting. We all take a small part, and however much part we want to play is up to us as an individual. But one thing that I can't really tolerate is people that just completely detach from the process. And it's their right to. We are the country of freedom, and like it's your right to say like whatever happens happens. I'm not going to worry about it. But at the same time, you cannot be surprised when things go so wrong. Because you were not paying attention as an individual, as a citizen. You weren't part of the checks and balances that make sure that the people in power are not abusing those powers. It is a long-term problem, and the people in power count on people having a very short attention span and a very short memory to allow them to eventually erode away people's individual rights and liberties so that at the end of the day, they can stay in power and they can shut people up when they get out of line, which is a lot of what happens. And that's the big problem about police brutality is the police think that any dissent is criminal. Any dissenting opinion about the way they operate is getting in the way of them doing their job. And that's wrong. That's wrong because the people are responsible for putting them in that position in the first place. And like when you are removing yourself from the situation, you become unaware of the situation. Again, you cannot be surprised. And you can't look at black people being murdered in the streets and go like, oh, I had no idea. It's been happening for decades. You can't, and when they come for you next and to take your freedoms next, you cannot shout outrage and ask for help because no one will be left to help you. You have to stand up. And it doesn't mean going out in protesting. Like, I get that. And Bob's right. Like, there is a big concern that a lot of people are forgetting, and it's going to cause a lot of problems in a few weeks from now. Coronavirus is still a thing. It didn't end. I hate that people will, like, a few months ago was like, thank God that's over now. Like, oh, all back to normal. Business as usual. This stock market is booming, baby. It's like people have entirely forgotten about that. So if you do go out and protest, wear a mask. mask, try to stay distant. I know it's tough to do, and obviously people want to demonstrate, but do keep in mind there are many problems that are occurring right now and many things to think about. And these stressful situations require people to be the most courageous and to stand up like the strongest.
It's scary to think about. If there's another huge upsurge, and there might be another upsurge of corona outbreak right now, I don't know, because there's a lot less coverage. But imagine the hospitals with a combination of people that are injured during these protests, and then on top of that, the coronavirus stuff going on. This is a very scary time.
Yeah.
So we're reaching the end. We predetermined we were going to be live for an hour.
Yeah.
Just to talk about this. Does anyone want to make like a closing, encouraging statement of any sort before we go? Are there any last things?
What I said was pretty much a closing statement, I guess.
I just want to reiterate here that people are still saying looting and rioting isn't the same as protesting. But again, you're missing the point. If you are focused on people that are looting and rioting, because that is not everyone out there. That's making a sweeping generalization. That's saying this one person did something wrong, therefore this 1,000 people are bad. That's not right. There are people that are racist that are instigating these things and then pointing the finger. I talked about this yesterday. There's a video of an older white guy with a bow and arrow shooting his bow and arrow at people. And then whenever he got swarmed and took a couple licks and people took away his bow and arrow, but ultimately left him alive and in pretty good shape because he was on the news talking about how he was attacked by evil black people a few hours or minutes later. And it was all a lie whenever the video came out of him shooting his bow and arrow into the crowd. Don't think that because people are trying to get you distracted from the protests that looting and rioting was the goal of this. It's equality.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in all of the details and the propaganda where people trying to mislead you. People want equality. That's it. Black lives have to matter for all lives to matter. They want to be equal. They deserve to be. Let's make that happen. Don't get caught up on the details and propaganda.
Yeah, going off of that, I think my final thing would be, I'm as guilty of this as anyone. I've been staring at Twitter, staring at social media, watching things unfold. It is easy to go down the rabbit hole of watching all these horrible things happening and building up anger and resentment and maybe fear, maybe just distress. These emotions are part of this. This is a trying time, and it's crazy stuff is happening in this country. But the important part of this is that Black lives have to matter for all lives to matter, and that the changes that are going to make that happen are not going to be resulting from any of these protests or any of the clashes that are going on. The protests are important because it gets the message out. It gets the words and the feelings and the experiences of the people that this is affecting on the news, on social media, and it educates and enlightens people to things they were possibly unaware of until now. But the things that need to change and happen are long term. The fervor and the emotion that you feel right now is going to fade, and when the images stop being horrific and when it starts going, feeling more normal, which is just how it goes, you still need to be engaged and involved if this is actually going to improve.
Yeah.
It's political on a local and state level and a federal level, but it's also community based. And I would just encourage people to get involved in any way that you feel you can, and do the best that you can to make all humans equal and make sure that the system is built and changed and reconstructed in a way that makes that possible. Because it's just not the way it works right now. The way the system is structured, it's not likely for equality to be the outcome all of the time. And that is, just get involved. Once the emotions fade, once it's no longer the hot trending topic, stay involved, get involved, because that's how this gets solved. It's a long-term issue. It's a generational issue. And so far, the generations that have come before us have made some progress, but clearly it's still a very serious issue. It's still costing people lives and causing just unspeakable pain and anger for Black people in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should probably get off the air.
I got
guess.
one more thing that I'd like just a quick adding. Number one, just if your phone can record in 4K, set it for the highest resolution possible so we can see those nice, crisp name badges and badge numbers and all the details. Like that's really what it's all about. Never have before have we had such a recording haven in this day and age. But also I do want to say that like the term Black Lives Matter is a symbol. It's an idea that is beyond the mere definition of the words. Don't let people drag you into a battle of semantics because it distracts from the idea. There was this post a while ago, I forget who it was on Reddit or something, that said, someone tweeted out that was like, man, these liberals would let the Statue of Liberty burn down to save one person in the torch, like way up high. And I'm like, and there was a good response because it said, yes, I would let the Statue of Liberty burn down because the statue is a symbol. It's not about the statue itself. Like, if we sacrifice the statue for a life, then the idea that the statue represents is worthless. Like, by sacrificing the nature of the symbol, we can make the idea so much stronger. Because at the core, it's not about the object. It's not about the words, Black Lives Matter. It's the meaning behind it. And people that try to demean that word are distracting from the point of the argument. And if you cannot recognize that Black Lives Matter is a symbol more than words, then you are missing the point. Period.
Yeah. I think I've said all I have to say on the matter. Well said, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to us talk about this very important thing.
Yeah, thank you.
The links are provided to the mods. They can post it, and they've been posted throughout the stream. Go check it out. There's ways that you can help every day, every second of every day. Okay.
All right. I guess I'll mute and wrap up. I don't think we're reading anybody. We're probably just ending today, correct?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna head out.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
All right. Well, you're hanging out or heading out, but I'm gonna mute and wrap things up.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, everybody, and thank you guys for talking with us.
Yeah. See you later, dudes.
All right. Bye. And just for you guys, remember, there's so much more to be done to help people. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want to help people. And anyone trying to stop that needs to evaluate what they're doing. All right. Take care, guys.